Yo, what is up, guys? So the new Vampire Exceed monster is out on YGOPRO, but also it's having some errors right now. I'll go ahead and explain its effect, but they recently came out with a new Exceed for zombies, and it's actually a pretty cool card, and we're going to go ahead and actually showcase off a really cool replay. Now, one thing as a heads up, I cannot mouse over the new Vampire Exceed card because it causes the game to actually crash. But the thing is it's not playable yet. Well, it was playable, but then I guess there was some error and it does not work properly because I actually was trying to get some footage of it myself, but everyone's really excited about the new vampire. Now, basically, the whole archetype is supposed to be vampires, but they're still zombies at the end of the day, so there's a lot of great zombie support. And this is actually a really cool duel. Shoutouts to player for sending in this footage, because I was trying to run again the vampire, but you just can't make it. It's just like if you have the proper summoning conditions, it just is unavailable in your extra deck, which I don't know what causes that error. But again, it might be something that is already fixed by the time this video actually makes it out, because sometimes they're pretty fast with fixing things. But anyways, I really want to showcase off this really cool play with a lot of different cards you guys probably haven't seen in a while. One of those cards being Brain Control. Now, Brain Control is, wow, one of the most iconic cards in the game for like losing or getting sacked is what we used to call it when someone would top deck Brain Control for game. But surprisingly enough, Brain Control is actually at 2. Now, it does have an errata, but it's okay. Now, we are utilizing the older Exceed card, the Crimson Knight Vampire Bram, which actually lets you grab a monster from your opponent's graveyard. And then also, with that ability, the new Vampire Exceed monster is going to be able to utilize the opponent's monster and treat it as a level 6 monster for material for the Link. Not the Link summon, for the Exceed summon. Maybe we'll get a Link too, that would be really cool. We're also utilizing the new stuff from the Vendreads. Like I said, I'm sorry, I can't mouse over the card, it'll cause the game to crash. But anyways, basically what it does is it lets you send a card from your opponent's field to the graveyard. Now, in addition to that, when anything is sent to the graveyard, a monster from the field to the graveyard is sent, you can actually get that monster in defense position. So it's kind of like Go-Yo Guardian in that aspect. However, it's before the battle phase, and that's what it reminds me of, because it does need a special summon in defense position, which is kind of unfortunately part of the effect. Now, we are also utilizing Vampire Grace over here. Now, Vampire Grace was a card that I was talking about before when we just had the card revealed, where it makes so if a 5 or higher zombie type is special summoned to your side of the field by the effect of a zombie monster while it's in your graveyard, which that can be a lot of different things. In fact, there's actually a Link monster that I want to get into that can actually work well with like the archetype. But anyways, you can pay 2,000 life points to special summon this card from your graveyard. And there's another card that I want to talk about because I was actually building the deck, and again, you just can't make the card right now. I guess the card is maybe disabled, or they just just made a small error. But like I said, hopefully it will be fixed really soon, so I get you guys some footage of my variant, because I'm playing it with heroes. It's really weird, but I swear it's good. So Brain Control, really good card. Unfortunately, Weatheries is an archetype player. Well, they can kind of bounce back things, and they kind of go away and they come back the next turn. We're gonna see the Vampire Duke attacking over, and I want to go over a lot of the older legacy support for the zombies. Vampires are zombies. Well, it's a part of the family. Unfortunately, he got stolen warning, but it was still a really cool duel. You actually brought out the Shiranui Synchros, you busted out Vendreads, you busted out the older Exceed, plus the new Exceed. You did a lot of things, player. I gotta give him a shout out for this really cool play. This is kind of, I guess, the only play because the card doesn't actually work right now. But if any of you guys are building the deck, this is going to be an excellent video for you. So, how the new card interacts with the game is it's kind of counterproductive to the older zombie vampires, and I'll get into that real quick. So let me go ahead and go over its effect briefly real quick. I'm sorry, like I said, I couldn't mouse over during the video, it just causes it to crash. But anyways, it requires 2 level 6 monsters, but if you Exceed summon this using a monster that is owned by your opponent as material, that monster's level is treated as 6. So basically, you can take whatever monster your opponent has, that can be through enemy controller, mind control, brain control, and it will be treated as a level 6. And that works really well with Destiny Hero Malicious, because Malicious is like a free monster anyways. You can even go a step further and just use enemy controller and tribute a Malicious, and then get out another Malicious, and at that point, well, you don't really lose out on anything because the malicious, well, you banish one, summon one malicious enemy controller to take their monster, and then use malicious plus, again, anything that they have, because it will be treated as a level 6 monster. And malicious happens to be level 6. And it doesn't even have to be a vampire monster, or, well, it would be technically a zombie type monster, but yeah, it doesn't even have to be that. It can just straight up be any monster, and that's really cool. So, like I said, that's why I think it is a really unique card. But the effect is really good in any deck. So, its effect is once per turn, you detach a material from this card, target one card your opponent controls, and you send it to the graveyard, which is actually really good. It doesn't destroy or anything like that, and that's good in every deck. But in addition to that, once per turn, if a monster or monster on the field is sent to your opponent's graveyard by a card effect or destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, you detach material, and then you go ahead and special summon that monster or monsters to your field in defense position. So that can be multiple targets, which is actually really insane. If you were to, say, for example, activate something like Torrential Tribute, but this card was protected by some effect. Now, I know that the Zephyrs, the Yang Zings, they have an ability to make it so the synchros have an effect where it has like a bonus effect of, you know, can't be destroyed in battle, or card effects, or can't be targeted. Like, there are certain ones that have those effects. Does anyone know if there's one for Exceed monsters? If it's like, if this monster is used as Exceed material, it gains this effect. Because if you're able to make this card, it could not be destroyed by card effects. I was thinking what would be really cool, or maybe if there's a card that just protects zombies, there might be a card like that. It would just be interesting to, you know, Torrential Tribute, and then whatever your opponent had, right, they summon like 2 or 3 monsters, or if they pendulum summon a bunch of monsters and you go Torrential Tribute, I destroy everything, and then you get everything. That is pretty amazing, because this does actually get you multiple monsters if you happen to destroy multiple monsters, or if there's multiple monsters destroyed. But like I said, if you're destroying something by battle, you also have that effect. But the first effect, the primary, can proc the secondary effect, because, well, you know, it's sending something to the graveyard. And like I said, if you activate the effect to detach, you're able to go ahead and special summon one of those monsters, or one or more monsters in defense position. So it does kind of slow you down in a sense, because it is defense position. But the thing is that obviously, you know, you can go to main phase 2, link summon, you can utilize it for other things, or if it's a really good card, well, you've probably already taken it. You could take it, use its effect, and then maybe use it as link material, maybe get something back later on. I don't know. There's a lot of options with this deck. This is an interesting build. Now, this one definitely used just a lot of different zombie archetypes. I don't necessarily feel like Vendread might be like the best option, although I don't know exactly why. Maybe he was just thinking, oh, it's a level 6. I mean, this one has a pretty mediocre effect. It does let you cycle through cards, because you're able to ritual summon using, of course, some of the cards that you could just get free effects off of anyways, right? So you just get the Mizuki in the graveyard. Maybe that was his idea with the deck originally. But there's another card I wanted to like get into, and I want to kind of go over the whole archetype, because there's a lot of cards that you guys are like, what the heck are these? Because some of these vampire cards are really old. In fact, Vampire Lord is a very old card. But going into Vampire Grace, when a 5 or higher zombie type monster is special summoned. Now, unfortunately, these are going to be Exceed monsters, so it's rank. I wish this card counted rank, because then it'd be so easy just to be like, oh cool, just get this card out for free by paying 2,000 life points. I feel like it's a little bit mediocre, but it does have that effect with once per turn you can declare a card type, monster, spell, or trap, and your opponent summons one card of that type from their deck to the graveyard. Which normally you'd think that that's a bad thing, because your opponent will just send something that could activate itself in the graveyard. However, there's newer support that kind of lets you gain some type of advantage off of that. With Vampire Kingdom over here, it has that effect. Once per turn, when your opponent, when a card is sent from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, you get to target a card in the field. Send a dark vampire monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy it. So you're able to basically get this card into the graveyard, or if this card is out on the field, if you're playing 2 copies of it, I guess. And that aspect, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, the older vampire stuff was all about sending like one card, but like the thing is, you get to declare. Well, with this one over here, you can declare one. And then this one over here, when it inflicts battle damage, you declare a type, so monster, spell, trap, and they send one. Now this is different from Vampire Al Dampir, the new Exceed monster, the rank 6, because his effect is when it's sent from the field to the opponent's graveyard. So it's a little bit harder to activate that. Although again, you will still be proccing Vampire Kingdom's effect. I'm thinking the new Vampire stuff is all about sending from the field to the graveyard, whereas these are sent from the deck to the graveyard. So it's very like counterproductive. And also the older Vampire stuff tends to be level 5, where this new guy is rank 6, so it doesn't really make sense. Who knows, again, we might be getting a ton of other Vampire support, but I know a lot of people are hyped up right now to play Vampires and see what the deck does with just this one new card, because sometimes all it takes is one card to make an archetype very good. And we'll go over some other cards that you guys might totally have forgotten about, like Autonomous Action. This card actually did see some competitive play a long time ago. But more so, Brain Control saw much more competitive play. But there was a time where this was actually relevant. If someone remembers the deck, let me know, because I just remember this card being like a thing. But anyways, again, it's when you're inflicting battle damage, you to do something. But this still works when something is destroyed by battle. So that's you know, it's got 2600 attack, so it's not too bad. Now, Shadow Vampire is kind of bad. I mean, yes, you can go into Crimson Knight Vampire Bram basically lets you special summon just one card from your opponent's graveyard, which is really good. But there's a lot of downsides with the older Vampire support. Crimson Knight Vampire Bram makes it so only that monster can attack. And the same thing with Shadow Vampire. This has the effect where with this card as normal summon, you can special summon a Dark Vampire monster from your hand or deck, except for itself. But if you do, only that monster can attack. But the problem is if you get this monster to special summon like another vampire card like Duke over here, and then you make this, well, this is the only card that can attack. But then you get this, and then only that monster is the one that can attack. It's like, it's just counterproductive for the most part. And there's not enough stun in it because, well, this card doesn't like negate anything. It makes it so, again, when something is, you know, sent from the field to the graveyard via card effect. I wish it was just whenever something is just sent to the graveyard, you just could be like, okay, I'm gonna snatch steal your monster. Then we're looking at a much better archetype, but it just seems to be lackluster. This card has the effect when it's normal summon, you target 8 Dark Vampire monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And then when this card is special summoned, you declare a type, and your opponent sends one. So again, it's supporting that that older archetype. Now there is a pretty unique card, Vampire Sucker, which requires two zombie monsters. It is more likely 4 vampires. I don't know if this is anything related to the newer vampire stuff that we're getting, but it is definitely a card that can be used for the older vampire stuff. So if you would tribute summon you can tribute a zombie monster your opponent controls as if you controlled it, which this card lets you have that effect once per turn, where you get to target a monster opponent's graveyard and you get to special summon and treat it as zombie. So basically, you get to monster reborn your opponent's monster, but it goes to their side of the field, so it's not necessarily that great. However, you can use it as a tribute summon for any of the vampire cards. So, in one sense, yeah, that's kind of cool, but then you have to use 2 monsters to summon this in the first place, which can technically be not that bad if you go like Zombie Master, which is another card I wanted to talk about briefly, Zombie Master. This card did see some play in something called Diva Zombies, a really old deck that used Branak, and it was like a synchro deck. But yeah, you just send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard and target level 4 or lower zombie monster. So basically, you would like Mizuki into this, and then this could just discard like a card you don't need, or hack another Mizuki, and then you can have access to, of course, going straight into this. Then with this, you could have, you know, access to still going for this because you still haven't normal summon, because if you're using Mizuki's effect. There's little cards like Book of Life that can bring back Zombie Master or any of the zombies. It's just it's a monster reborn for zombies. Plus, you get to banish something out of the graveyard, which is really cool stuff. But as far as the Shiranuis go, like the synchro ones, I mean, it was in the replay, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, he didn't take the W over there, but it just came down to a solemn, and that's just how sometimes duels go. Another cool card is Recurring Nightmare in this deck. Now, some of the zombies have 0, and some of the vampires also have 0, so it could be a card to look out for if you just happen to like have one lying around. I believe this card was like secret rare, but it could be a card just to keep in the back of your head if it ever becomes like viable. I know that this one doesn't have 0, but it depends on all the new vampire stuff that we get. Hopefully that will come out pretty soon. But this is another card that I thought was really cool, is Autonomous Action Unit. It's an older card, but it's an equipped card that says pay 1,500 life points, and you get to target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, and you get to special summon it on your side of the field in face-up attack position, and you equip it when this card leaves the field to destroy the equipped monster. So basically, you're paying life points for this ability to basically grab something out of your opponent's graveyard. And again, this card did see some competitive play, strangely enough. It's not that bad of a card. It is an equipped card, but it's an interesting card. Now, going further into this, another thing I wanted to mention was this card Endless Decay, right? Endless Decay over here. Because this it's a small amount to pay, but if you're taking some damage and you're at low life points, this card can actually be really good. Plus, it's a level 5 that happens to be a zombie. Now, this one just requires zombie monsters. It doesn't require vampires, so that's really cool. So, Endless Decay has a summoning condition. If you have 2,000 or less life points, you can special summon this card from your hand. When this card is normal or special summon, this card's attack becomes half of the opponent's life points. So if you happen to not have very many life points, and this is where my deck was going, okay, spoiler for I guess the deck that I'm building, because I wanted to build a really cool deck. It's hero vampires, guys, but like I said, I can't run this card right now. There's actually a glitch, it doesn't work properly. But what I do is basically hero lives, and I'm going to be at low life points, and then if I use cards like Autonomous Action Unit and Brain Control, like I'll be at low enough life points. It's pretty easy to lower your life points. You just don't do anything for a turn, and you hope you don't get OTK'd. But Endless Decay can be 4,000 attack, and that's pretty cool. So what you're able to do is just get this card to 4,000 attack, and you just special summon it for basically free, as long as you activate like Hero Lives and any other card that's paying life points. Galaxy Cyclone as another card to run, but you can just summon this card, and then this card will. Well, before you make this card, I guess you technically be brain controlling. So you're taking an opponent's monster. You can brain control, you can mind control. You can also, again, use that enemy controller combo I was talking about, where you go, you have out a malicious, you enemy controller the malicious, and you get out another malicious because you banished another one. And then basically you have free targets. So enemy controller is really good in the deck for that aspect. But then in addition to that, after you've activated Hero Lives, obviously, you will have already had, like, more than likely it's going to be like a hero monster. And interesting enough, some of the zombies, they're actually Earth, so you can actually go Mass Change second, which can go into Dian, which can OTK even harder. Because what you're doing with this deck is you're taking away their boss monster, and then what you can do, or you can take a small monster if you want to, and then what you can do is you can activate this card's effect, Alden Piers, and you can actually send a one of their cards, one of their monsters, unless of course you want to get rid of back row, but you can just run Hatred and screw back row, don't worry about it. So you have Alden Pier over here, send like a really good monster to the graveyard, and then you can basically take the monster. Now, if you're activating a card like Brain Control, and it does have to be a monster that can be normal summoned, which usually you want to take the special summon monsters anyways. So what you can do is you can you can either use Endless Decay if you happen to have one, plus like another like level 5 monster, and then you can obviously go into this, and then you can Monster Reborn. Now the only problem I have with this, again, it doesn't let you OTK, so I really didn't like this card, brand at least. With this card, it's just kind of another card that you can have. Maybe you're activating that monster's effect. You can also, again, extend some of your combos with something like Vampire Sucker. Because when you're activating this effect after you sent something, if you have this, it doesn't really need to be in like the appropriate zone, but it allows you to then draw a card if a scroll down to the other effect. This is the wrong card. With Vampire Sucker over here, you have that effect. If a zombie monster is special summoned from the graveyard, you're gonna draw a card. Now, I got really hyped up with this. Now, its effect is only once per turn, where you to draw the card. Otherwise, I would have ran a lot more copies of Zombie Master in my hero deck, and I would have just tried to spam it. At the moment, I might actually drop Zombie Master, because, like I said, I was testing out things, and then when I got to this step of making this card, the game just didn't work, so lucky me. But like I said, hopefully they'll be fixing it really soon, and it'll work properly. Heck, like I said in the replay, if I mouse over it, just replay ended. But they will hopefully be fixing that soon, so I can get you guys some cool like footage of that. But as far as like other stuff, like Shurnui, they have a really good card called the Style Swallow Slash. And you tribute a zombie monster, then you use to target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, then banish 1 Shurnui monster from your deck. Now, unfortunately, that does require you to play like those cards. Now, these guys aren't that bad. I mean, it definitely was going to win him the game had Solomori not been there, but it stopped like I think like another vampire player. And he also like lost out like on Brain Control because the Leather Rays, the bounce back stuff. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to go over as far as like going over like the vampire stuff and like just theory crafting and thinking of what I wanted to do in my build, because at the moment I can't play it. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the new like vampires. You guys can let me know what your thoughts are on the deck and the trust you player. Well, I know that's just the default username, but you know who you are that sent this in. It's a really cool deck concept, and like I said, I would have never thought of running autonomous action unit. I totally forgot about this card, and then I was like, dude, I can just throw it into this decay, and I got really hyped up, and I built the deck, and I went in to play it, and I was like, no, you can't play it. But yeah, it's looking to be an okay deck, but it's not nearly like we don't really have the rest of the cards, so I think it's a lot too early to really say for sure if zombies or vampire zombies are going to be actually a thing. But this card does have a good effect. Now, again, the only problem is it's too slow, and I think that if they don't come out with some spicy support, because it moves into defense position. Like I said, you get rid of a monster, you send it to the graveyard, you attach material, send it to the graveyard, and then you can go ahead and detach another one and just special on that monster, but it's in defense position. It's kind of like Goyle Guardian. It's just outdated. It's like, well, you gotta reach the battlefield. Well, this one doesn't have to go to battle phase, but it's just like, I have to wait until main phase 2 to do anything, you know? This one, a little bit faster than Goyle, but it's still, at the end of the day, too slow for, I think, the competitive scene of Yu-Gi-Oh! Who knows? You guys can let me know your thoughts, as well as any other ideas for the vampire archetype. They would be pretty cool with this, because like I said, it's cool to see a card like Brain Control, like a legendary card. He's finally seeing some type of way to see some play, because this card is awesome. But anyways, let me know, guys, your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the vid, drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button for more Yu-Gi-Oh content.